Welcome to the Menga podcast, your ultimate dose of vulnerability. We're diving into a real-world cybersecurity case today.
Yeah, the kind of thing that keeps IT professionals up at night.
Exactly.
We're talking about the exploitation of a zero-day vulnerability.
Oh, man.
It's like finding a secret backdoor into a system that no one knew existed.
Oh, wow.
Not even the people who built it.
Okay, so in this case,
That system was FortiManager,
FortiManager.
a tool used by companies to manage their firewalls.
Oh,
You can think of it as a central command center for a network security.
so like one central place where they can control all the security settings.
Exactly.
Got it.
And because it's so critical,
Right.
a vulnerability in FortiManager can have a ripple effect across the entire network.
Oh, I see.
That's why this particular case is so concerning.
So let's break down what happened here.
Okay.
Mandiant, a cybersecurity firm,
Right.
was called in to investigate after some suspicious activity was detected on FortiManager devices.
They partnered with Fortinet, the company that makes FortiManager,
Makes sense.
to piece together the puzzle.
Yeah.
And what they found was a sophisticated attack carried out by a group they've dubbed UNC 5820.
UNC Shop 820.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mandiant discovered that over 50 devices across various industries were potentially compromised.
Wow.
These weren't just random targets either.
Really?
They appear to have been carefully selected.
So it was targeted.
Yeah, it's like UNC 5820 had a shopping list of specific organizations they were interested in, and they used this vulnerability to gain access to their networks.
So they knew who they were going after.
Exactly.
Okay, so how did they actually pull this off?
Well,
What does exploiting a zero-day vulnerability even look like in practice?
in this case, it all started with a vulnerability called CVE 2024-47575.
Okay.
This flaw essentially allowed the attackers to remotely execute commands on vulnerable FortiManager devices.
So they could basically control these devices from afar
Exactly.
without anyone knowing.
That's the kind of power this vulnerability gave the attackers.
That's scary.
And they used that power to steal valuable configuration data,
What is that?
essentially the blueprints for how these networks were set up.
Oh, so like all the instructions for how the network is configured.
Exactly.
Okay.
This included things like network configurations,
Uh-huh.
usernames, and even password hashes,
Password hash.
which are like scrambled versions of passwords.
Oh, okay.
It's like handing someone a map to all your valuables and a guide on how to crack the safe.
That sounds pretty bad.
Yeah.
So how did Mandiant figure all of this out? It's not like there's security camera footage in the digital world.
That's where digital forensics comes in.
Okay.
Mandiant analyzed network logs,
And what are those exactly?
which are like records of all the traffic going in and out of a network.
So like a history of everything that happened on the network.
Exactly.
Got it.
They also looked at file timestamps
Timestamp.
to see when files were created, modified, or accessed, and even examined remnants of data in the computer's memory.
Oh, wow. So they really dug deep.
They did.
It's like piecing together a crime scene.
Exactly.
But instead of fingerprints and DNA, you're looking at digital breadcrumbs.
And those breadcrumbs led them to a fascinating discovery.
Oh.
The attackers didn't just sneak in and steal data.
Oh, no.
They actually registered their own device with the compromised FortiManager,
What?
essentially becoming an authorized user.
So they were like a wolf in sheep's clothing,
Exactly.
blending in with the legitimate devices to avoid detection.
And this living off the land
That's
tactic
off the land?
makes it even harder to spot these kinds of attacks.
Why is that?
Because they're using legitimate tools and processes.
It's like a burglar using the homeowner's own tools to break into a safe.
Exactly.
That's clever.
And what's even more intriguing
What's that?
is that, based on the evidence, UNC 5820 didn't do anything else after stealing the configuration data.
Wait, really?
No further malicious activity was detected.
So the big question is,
Yeah,
what was their motive?
right.
What were they planning to do with all that information?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
Were they simply gathering intelligence,
Right.
setting the stage for a larger attack,
Mm-hmm.
or did they have another objective altogether?
Yeah.
It's a mystery, at least for now.
Like a spy novel where you know someone's up to something, but you don't know what.
And that uncertainty is what makes this case so unsettling.
For sure.
But even without knowing their ultimate goal,
Right.
we can still learn a lot from what Mandiant uncovered.
So what can our listeners,
Yeah.
even those who don't use Fortinet products,
Right.
take away from this case?
Well, it highlights the critical importance of proactive security measures,
Okay.
no matter what systems you use.
So it's like staying one step ahead.
Yeah.
of the criminals.
You need to think like they do
Uh-huh.
and anticipate their moves.
Right.
And part of that is understanding the tools and tactics they use. Mandiant's report provides some valuable insights into how attackers like UNC 5820 operate.
So, for example,
Yeah.
they mentioned something called indicators of compromise,
Right.
or IOCs.
IOCs, yeah.
What are those?
Think of IOCs as digital fingerprints left behind at a crime scene.
Okay.
They're specific pieces of evidence that can help security teams detect if a particular attack has occurred.
So if you find these IOCs on your network,
Right.
it's a pretty good sign you've been targeted.
Exactly.
Okay.
In this case, Mandiant identified several IOCs related to the FortiManager exploit, such as specific IP addresses,
Okay.
file names, and even snippets of code used in the attack.
It's like having a wanted poster
Right.
for the bad guys' digital tools.
And while we won't go into all the technical details here,
that would probably be a bit much.
these IOCs are publicly available
Okay.
and can be used by security teams to scan their systems for signs of compromise.
So even if you don't use Fortinet products,
Right.
this case is a wake-up call to review your security practices
Uh-huh.
and make sure you're doing everything you can to protect your systems.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And one of the most important things you can do
What's that?
is to keep your systems up to date with the latest security patches.
So it's like locking your doors and windows.
You bet.
It won't stop a determined attacker,
Right?
but it'll make it a lot harder for them to get in.
Exactly. And in the case of zero-day vulnerabilities, where patches aren't yet available,
All right.
you need to think about other layers of protection.
Like what?
Well, one key strategy is to limit access to sensitive systems,
Okay.
like FortiManager,
Uh-huh.
to only authorized users and devices.
So it's like having a VIP list for your most critical systems.
Another important measure is to restrict communication between devices
Right.
to only those that are approved and trusted.
So it's like having a security guard checking IDs at the door.
Exactly.
Okay.
And finally, it's crucial to have a robust incident response plan in place so that if you are attacked, you can quickly contain the damage and recover.
It's like having a fire drill.
Exactly.
You hope you never have to use it,
Right.
but it's important to be prepared.
Exactly.
Okay, so it sounds like there's a lot we can learn from this case,
Often. Oh,
even if we don't use Fortinet products.
absolutely.
So what else can our listeners do to stay ahead of the curve?
Well, staying informed about the latest threats and vulnerabilities is essential.
Okay.
There are many resources available online, including security blogs, podcasts, and news sites.
Like our podcast.
Of course.
Of course.
And another important step is to participate in security communities and share information with your peers.
Okay.
We're all in this together, and by working together, we can make it harder for the bad guys to succeed.
It's like a neighborhood watch for the digital world.
Exactly.
I like that.
And remember, even the most sophisticated security systems can be vulnerable to zero-day exploits.
Right.
But by being proactive, staying informed, and working together, we can significantly reduce our risk.
So it's all about making yourself a less attractive target.
Right, because at the end of the day, attackers are looking for the path of least resistance. If you make it difficult for them, they'll likely move on to an easier target.
So what's the key takeaway for our listeners today?
I think the most important lesson from this case is that security is a journey, not a destination. It's an ongoing process of learning, adapting, and improving.
To the evolving nature of cyber threats.
It's a continuous journey.
Remember, everyone, security is a journey, not a destination. Stay curious out there and stay safe.